Okay, we are live with Friday, February 5th, Dr. Politics and the Political Architect Show. Welcome, everyone. We've got our usual doctors on tap. We've got Dr. Garrett Zaner from Towson University, Baltimore County. One of the places that's one of my favorite pizza places, Remo's, over in Kearney, Maryland. And was Kearney named for because it was settled by Kearney people?
I honestly have no idea.
Boy, you bring up such weird stuff.
See, Garrett got the Kearney reference though because we had the pre-conversation. And then we're joined by Jeff Thornton, security expert, Montgomery County native. Now he's gone off and left East Berlin for living in West Berlin, aka Howard County. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you.
And then we have Leo Thuman from I believe you recently graduated from Case Western or about to graduate from Case
Yes.
Western. Welcome and congratulations,
Thank you.
Leo. And then we have the vice chairman of the Anne Arundel County Republican Central Committee, Jason Trott, Globetrotter. Where in the world is Jason Trott?
I'm currently coming to you from our state capital, Annapolis, Maryland.
Oh, very nice. We'll have to, and then, by the way, and then we've got Don Irvine, media watchdog pundit. He can sniff out every bad media story around. And Don, welcome.
Dwight?
And I've got some breaking news, everyone. I hear the Shamrock Shake will be available February 15th now.
All
Don't
right.
need to wait to March. We're only like a week and a half away from the Shamrock Shakes. But then again, they did that last year, and I didn't see Shamrock Shakes until like March 1 at most places.
Shamrock Shakes in selective stores until March 1st, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care about.
But we are going to try and do a Shamrock Shake show. Probably do that. If we can kick it up, we'll probably do it the Friday of the week, the 15th, which is Friday the 19th. 2 weeks from today will be our Shamrock Shake show. And this has been a busy week, Don.
Yeah, but it has been. But, I left one thing off that I was ashamed I left off the list, and I think we ought to start off with this.
Sure.
Which is, we're coming right up on none other than Ronald Reagan's birthday.
Yep.
And
we're celebrating 40 years since he was inaugurated president this year. We've got on our sister show, Direct Line, we have Becky Norton Dunlap, who's going to be on the 17th to talk about our experience in the Reagan administration. And we're going to have all of our guests this month kind of chime in on the Gipper. What do you guys remember? I mean, by the way, Don, this is a year ago is the last time we were at your house on Reagan Day.
was that really?
Yes, it was a year ago when things were normal. It was the last
Can you believe that we've been in this thing going at this?
327 days.
Oh man, it's just unbelievable. I don't know.
Yeah, so
I mean, 40 years ago. I mean, that's how many of you guys were still alive at that point? I mean, Dwight.
Oh, I wasn't even a blink in my own father's eye.
yeah,
I'm not sure how old
Jeff?
Jeff is.
Yes.
Jeff was actually
Genesis as well.
Dwight, you want to feel old? My mom was born the year Reagan was elected,
no. Wait, your mom is younger than me. Wow,
1980.
wow. I was 9 years old. 8 years old. I'm sorry, 8 years old in 1980.
Yeah.
And,
So we've gone.
But Jeff was around. Jeff, I believe your Cub Scouts was the Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts? You were Cub Scouts, right? And you guys were going to march in the parade.
Yep. It
All
was.
right, so it was about half the panel, right? 50-50.
Yeah.
The old guys versus the young guys, kind of like the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Brady versus.
By the way, go Bucks! I think the Bucks are going to win. Always
too,
bet on
Dwight.
Brady.
All right. So since I kind of brought that up, what are the Super Bowl predictions for those?
Buccaneers by two touchdowns.
I just want Tom Brady to keep winning, kind of now. I just think
That's a big difference, Dwight. I mean, I think a lot of people are calling for a much closer score.
I know. I'm more optimistic, and I've got faith in Brady. And I wonder if they'll boo boo him when they win because he supported President. He was a closet Trump supporter, which I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys.
They asked him a question about that at the player press conferences this past week. They asked him about his support for Trump. I think the sports media was looking for a reason to cancel him.
Yeah, and, that's
They're gonna do it. I mean, did you see that USA Today thing where they could call him out on white privilege?
white.
Sure. Why not?
Everybody pile on Brady. So I guess I mean, look, Tom Brady's had his ups and downs, but I mean, you have to admit, I mean, the guy potentially his 7th Super Bowl win. I mean, his 10th Super Bowl appearance. I don't know how you do not call him, regardless win or lose, this coming Sunday, the greatest quarterback in terms of just this blank, unbelievable.
And Don, you and I and Jeff are old and remember when the Patriots, when they went to the Super Bowl, they used to always lose. It was, and he won 6 of his rings are from when he was with New England, and New England's become a powerhouse. Well, back in the 80s, they'd basically flip a coin between the Bills and the Patriots, who'd go to the Super Bowl and lose to the NFC team. And that's pretty much how it's been until actually I think the Patriots made the first AFC team to win in a long time. After the fact, many moons later.
So it'll be an interesting day. Now I will admit that because of Colin Kaepernick, I'm still staying in my self-imposed NFL boycott, and so I haven't watched the game since the Colin Kaepernick days. I just check the scores later.
I have not either, and I do the score checking the scores. It's also a lot less painless also when you just check the scores out. So, Jason, what's your prediction for this big game Sunday?
Predicting the Buccaneers. You know what? I'm even thinking about driving to Virginia, where sports betting is legal and set up, and throwing a bet down on the Buccaneers.
Take that GameStop money. They take that GameStop money.
Exactly, and turn it into more money. Just keep taking money and turn it into more money.
What was that?
I mean, now I think the Buccaneers are the first team ever to have the home field advantage in the Super Bowl. I don't think people realize how big of an advantage it's going to be.
Yeah,
but they won't be able to fire the cannons.
No cannons, but
why can't they do the cannons now? What was the whole reason for the cannons? Is it because
it's home team advantage? They don't want to give.
It's not inclusive enough.
Yeah.
Pirate privilege.
It's probably some anti-pirate thing, right, Dwight? Yeah.
So, Leo, your prediction for the game?
Gee, I'd like it to be the Bucks, but something tells me that with the Chiefs' playoff record in recent years,
do you think ESPN will they'll stop counting the scores in the middle of the game, and then all these other touchdowns will show up when it's said and done, and the Chiefs will be the winners? Do you think that's going to happen?
Well, I don't know if Dominion makes the scores. Oh, I couldn't tell.
On the scoreboard. Look, Patrick Mahomes is an incredible athlete. So, it's going to.
I know.
On paper, right now, it looks like it's going to be one of the best Super Bowls we've seen in a long time.
No, the game will definitely be a treat because they're such great quarterbacks.
See, I give it to experience. I know. We're a political show. We're getting a little.
We'll get to the thing here in a minute.
I know, but my view is I'm betting on experience over. I'm giving to the experience and the maturity of Brady, and I think it'll go their way.
If the Bucks,
I'm going to enjoy watching MSNBC in the morning on Monday morning, and they're going to throw out all these allegations. They're going to say there was Russian collusion. They're going to throw everything out there, and then you're going to have Mika Brzezinski is going to say they should have a congressional investigation into this.
Leave it to Dwight to find some kind of political angle to this football game of some dastardly deed.
I'm not too far off the mark. It does happen.
That's right. All right. So on to the news. Now that we've kind of gotten with some of the other things here. So we're now into week 2 of the Biden administration. Does anybody feel any differently in week 2 after week 1?
And I think he's got a lot. He's got a lot of pens, evidently, and how many executive orders are we at? What, 50 executive orders in 2 weeks now?
50 or so, yeah. He slowed down a little bit.
Even the New York Times has told him, "Hey, Joe, slow down a little. He's the guy at the all-you-can-eat buffet who keeps going and going, and and the guy finally has to say, hey, you may want to take it easy a little bit
Yeah,
here.
but the liberals got mad at the New York Times for that. But the Times, I think, I hate to defend anybody like the Times at all, but in general, they were just trying to make a point that these executive orders, these things are going to happen from administration to administration anyway, right?
Mhm.
I hate to defend anybody like the Times at all, but in general, they were just trying to make a point that these. Oh, here we go.
I'm trying to start the watch party because what do you call the fact that Facebook has made it harder to do it online. So you start the watch party online, then you got to go on your phone and start inviting people. But anyways,
nice way to kind of throw off the pace there, Dwight.
hey, our fans, they want to watch our show and they like to be invited.
Yeah, the question here though is like, even though Biden has slowed it down a little bit, you always get that little bit of flurry here. Is that how many more will he probably sign over the next few years? And to, and what extent are they going to have? I mean, it looks like it's not just, kind of undoing the Trump administration things. It's also resurrecting some Obama era things, and then also looking at the progressive, the left, and trying to kowtow to them to give them what they want on top of that. I think these executive orders under Biden have a potential to be far worse than anything we saw even under Obama.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen is this is clear overreach on the part of the Democrats, and let me tell you, this is going to not end well for them, quite frankly, because they did this in 2008, 2009, when Barack Hussein Obama became president. They overreached, and that gave us the Tea Party movement. And I think we're going to see a similar snapback, especially especially if they try to clamp down on free speech. I mean, honestly, that is going to be what does them in, quite frankly, because that is something because not every Democrat is a progressive. You still have Democrats that are common sense. Sure, they're wrong on everything like abortion and taxes and everything under the sun on that side, but they're not AOC woke liberals. You still have one or two, Joe Manchin.
I would say though that the Tea Party did exist before Obama. Like that actually came as kind of like as a reaction more so to the 2008 financial crisis. So
yeah, but I mean it was basically the purpose. It was post President Bush. It was basically a reaction to the Obama victory and having the supermajority in the Senate.
And also Bush's like TARP legislation though that saved the economy. That's the other part too.
Yeah, and that was a TARP. I don't want to relitigate TARP, but it was bad. I think the president should have used the playbook from the SNL crisis, and we could use that, and it would have solved the problem. Would not have been nearly as painful.
I'm a big fan of the TARP legislation.
Are you really?
Yes. I honestly, in all honesty, I think President George W. Bush is one of the most underrated presidents in U.S. history, and I think that
George W. Bush was one of our best presidents we've had in a long time.
I think his shining moment, in all honesty, was the 2008 crisis because he was willing to completely destroy his reputation within both the Republican Party and the rest of the American populace, to allow Henry Paulson and Ben Bernanke to do whatever they needed to do in order to solve the crisis.
Yep.
And I completely give him all credit for that.
And Garrett, his dad did a similar thing when he reached that budget deal because he wanted to govern. He went back on his word, which irritated a lot of Republicans. That spurred Pat Buchanan to do his run for president. One of three suicide runs at being the president. But Pat Buchanan is a really nice guy, though. With that said, but his dad, he raised taxes. It is in the Bush gene to put country first. I know John McCain used that as a tagline, America first or country first. Yeah, that's just a tagline for John McCain. Put John McCain first. Just ask Charles Keating.
So I take it, Garrett. I mean, the thing is that you're really calling this kind of political courage that we're probably really not seeing much of these days, right?
I would say so. I think that, I think right now I was having a conversation with another YR recently, and what's happening right now is that we're currently in a party realignment, but the party realignment is really being driven by personality instead of policy. And when it should be policy, when it should be. And I think that, the personality driven, politics is leading to less of political courage, and it's more of trying to base everything about polling and trying to win votes, when it should be more about doing sound policy in order to save both the Republican Party and both the country.
All right, so let me ask the entire panel on this particular topic. Is there anything that President Trump should have done that should have used more political courage, or did he have? Or are there examples of political courage out there?
Many things. I really retrospectively loved most of his 2016 platform. I thought the realignment was politically good, and I thought it was good for the country, where you have this coalition of working class voters and small business owners and the Rust Belt and that entire Trump coalition that you later saw, in spite of everything, start to include more Hispanics and more blacks. I think you saw that coalition because Trump appealed to these people, and no Republican had done that before. Mitt Romney hadn't, John McCain hadn't, George W. Bush hadn't. Probably the closest someone came to doing that since Eisenhower.
Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon.
And then a distant second from him, or third after Trump, would have been Reagan. But I think a lot of those policies, like support of fair trade, support of American manufacturing, he was pointing towards an industrial policy, a family policy, maybe doing something on healthcare that was a little bit less laissez-faire and more constructive, market-based still, but more constructive and more of an alternative. I think he was pointing towards a lot of those things. You didn't really see a manufacturing policy. You didn't see him really jump hard on immigration as his first thing in office. He had to shut down the government to get only a small portion of the wall. I think there are a lot of things he could have done toward that realignment that would have improved his legacy, made him look a lot more impressive, and kind of cemented that party system shift, and would have seen it take place more rapidly than it is now, everything considered. And I think he could have taken a more hardcore approach to COVID initially. We might have been in a better place. I think he would have won the election. I think if he called the Democrats bluff on stimulus and wore a mask, those two small things, I think, would have won him the election, and we wouldn't have the entire fiasco and the embarrassment that kind of followed it.
Completely agree.
And here's the thing. I think one of the things about President Trump is he's not getting credit for is this vaccine. Can you imagine if Hillary Clinton won in 2016? We would still be, waiting to get a vaccine. President Trump cut all the red tape. We're about to have 3 vaccines now: Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, and Pfizer. And we might even get 2 more after that. I know there's a German pharmaceutical firm, I believe, that's working on another vaccine that's supposed to work on newer variations of the disease. That is one thing that you'd think Joe Biden, by the way, Joe Biden the other day talked about he'll fire anyone on the spot who's disrespectful to folks. What about his press secretary? What's her name? That basically has been highly disrespectful to folks, like Senator Lindsey Graham.
Lucky.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting thing, Dwight, because I was wondering do you think Lindsey Graham appreciates being the face of the gay Republican community at the moment? Ever since Biden's press secretary called him Lady G in a tweet. It is a homophobic tweet. She is talking down on that. And
imagine if let's say
when she's not belittling people, she'll circle back. She'll circle back to you. We'll circle right back.
Yeah, no, she reminds
Or
me
talking
of a,
bad about the Space Force, a branch of our military.
By the way, she reminds me of a developer I've worked with in the past who, in meetings, you'd ask him, "Hey, can this be done?" And I gotta get back. I'll get back to you. I got some research I need to do. It's like, what the hell are you here for? If you need to do research for this, it's like, what do you mean circle back? They never would have taken that. If Sarah Huckabee Sanders ever said, "I'll get back to you," it would have been on the front page.
You would have heard them all screaming. You would have heard them all start yelling in the little crowd out there.
Yeah,
But another thing I wanted to follow up on Leo's point, and I'll borrow it from Dwight's friend Governor Bob Ehrlich's podcast, which I listened to the little first snippet episode too.
Nice.
I mean, I think he said it best was that we're not a Chamber of Commerce party anymore. We're an NFIB party. I mean, we're going from country clubs to working class blue collar workers, and I think that could be a strategy for the party moving forward. And I think Trump had a lot to do with that shift.
The party is at the perfect jumping off point to steal the labor movement from the Democratic Party. And we need to do that, in all honesty.
And if you look at the like the pipe fitters endorsed Joe Biden, what did he do? How many jobs have been killed by killing the XL pipeline? I mean, he wants them to go learn coding, I guess, now.
Oh yeah, allied trades.
Labor, it's like
United,
you guys, they don't. Yeah.
The Democrats don't really do much for the working class, honestly, other than promise to make good collective bargaining agreements with public school unions and AFSCME and in some places SEIU and AFG and these big government unions that are very
and these unions are nothing more than wholly owned subsidiaries of the Democrat Party. Frankly, the AFT, the NEA, right now they're the people that I might be making a little segue here, but those unions are the ones that are trying to keep kids out of the classrooms, and keep schools closed even longer. Even though the science, what happened to following the science? I thought they believed in science. I thought we were the ones that didn't believe in science, Don't they believe in science anymore? And then you got Joe Biden, who's now doubling down on the whole transgender stuff. It's like, are we going to see, I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember East Germany, but it was rumored that, the East German Olympic team was usually made up of males dressed as women. Just saying, Is that what we're gonna? Is that how we're gonna? I mean, it's crazy what they're doing.
All right. It seems that Dwight has gotten a couple of segues in there.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll address these in the sense of school reopening type of a thing. The Biden administration seems to be not really sure how they're going to deal with this. On the one hand, they kind of say, the president is all behind reopening schools, but he also has to face off against these unions, the teachers unions, because we're seeing, Lori Lightfoot in Chicago, her excuse has been generally, the Chicago schools were supposed to be back in session. And then she turns around, she blames President Trump and vaccine rollout from preventing them from getting back in there. Dwight has also alluded to following the science, and the science is showing in study after study that the schools in-person learning is really low transmission. There's very few cases. It's a pretty safe environment. And in Chicago, the Wall Street Journal pointed out the other day is that the Chicago school system has spent a ton of money, something like $100 million on PPE for the teachers. They have bent over backwards to let teachers teach remotely up to this point in time. And if you have an underlying health condition, you can still teach that way, but they want to get the students in there. Lori Lightfoot is, the Democrats have basically just caved into these teachers unions. And, for Biden is just, he's out there saying, yeah, we want to reopen schools, but he's really not offering anything, policy prescription that's doing anything. I mean, we're seeing Governor Northam, they're trying to move for like a mid-March opening in Virginia and Fairfax.
Yeah.
Larry Hogan wants schools open, but look where Montgomery County is. Typically dragging their feet. We have this.
Baltimore County just said that they're going to be opening back in March.
Well, here's something I'd like the county executives, and the counties don't make up the state. The state makes up the counties. They could have, the governor should have just said from Annapolis, you're going to open or else we're going to withhold tax dollars from your counties, frankly, at the end of the day. You need to punish these counties like Montgomery County, who drags their feet, and you got Mark Elrick, who wants to open up for outdoor dining in February to give everyone pneumonia, but still refuse to open up indoor dining at 25% even. Prince George's County is open for indoor dining at 25%. The fact that these county executives, they're nothing more than a bunch of rogue dictators, frankly, with their own little fiefdoms, and they don't seem to understand that there was a Supreme Court decision in the 1960s when they could not decide how to use their newest congressional district and create an at-large congressional seat for Maryland. And back in those days, each county had one senator, and the delegates were done by proportion. And that Supreme Court said counties.
Reynolds versus Sims.
Yep. The counties don't make up the state makes the counties. Thereby, the governor is in full rights to basically punish counties and tell them, you better do this or else. I mean, instead of passing the buck to the counties, it should be, bring down the gauntlet on these counties. Mark Elrick, you want to do it? Fine. We're not going to give you any of your tax revenues this year.
I mean, generally, I agree with you, but I disagree largely with the Reynolds versus Sims case, mainly because
I actually liked it better. I think it'd be better if we had one senator per county and delegates by proportion.
Yes,
I think it'd be so much better for the state.
And not only that, it's like, because the one thing that the Warren Court was trying to do with that case was push the concept of the one man, one vote, which is largely correct. But one of the things is that they were saying that, one man, one vote counts for everywhere except the U.S. National Congress. And I'm like, well, if the Constitution established a Congress that was not based upon the principle of one man, one vote, then the state shouldn't be beholden to that either. Which is my argument.
But you still were getting one man, one vote. You got your. It's not like the senators were.
It was about proportionality about legislatures.
Here's a little dirty secret about Maryland history that most people don't remember: is Maryland was a Jim Crow state. Maryland refused admission to Thurgood Marshall to the law school because he was black. But all the southern states are not allowed to have multi-member state house districts because it was basically viewed to suppress black legislators from getting elected. That's why Virginia has all single-member districts. Maryland, as a former Jim Crow state, should definitely have all single-member districts because this disenfranchises. There's African Americans in Prince George's County, Montgomery County, Baltimore County, that probably would have a better chance getting elected. These are African Americans, but it might be.
It would seriously boost minority representation in the General Assembly.
But they want to keep it their own little club and their own little fiefdom, led by the Montgomery County bourgeois, like former Jamie Raskin, and then you got Mark Corman and folks like that, and Cheryl Kagan, the bourgeois of Montgomery County,
The country club Democrats, right?
Yes. They're basically.
Jeff has been all too quiet here, so we need
Jeff.
to give an opinion.
Come on in, Jeff.
Tell us something, Jeff, about anything we've discussed.
You guys always have good comments and stuff, and I guess I'd say, there are some things that Trump did that I really support, and some things that he didn't. I think that he made a good start for like his tax programs, where he was going to, help small businesses. I think that it didn't quite help as much as it could have. And I was really hoping that Trump was really going to push more, again, I don't use the term, but like American manufacturing, not in the sense that we need to reinvent ourselves as a manufacturing country. I mean, we've come, but, if we want to fight against his basic monopoly of manufacturing, we have to have at least some basic infrastructure to compete against that. And China does have a monopoly, for example, on rare earth materials. Those are the kind of things that are, national concerns, because technology runs on rare earth materials. And if China has a complete stockhold of that, that's just as much a concern economically as OPEC. So I really would kind of wish he pushed more on those issues. trying to stand toe to toe with China economically, I think is a little foolhardy, in my opinion. But again, I believe firmly in America first, but how to get America back into its position of prominence, and make sure that they have the ability to manufacture, produce materials on their own and not be reliant upon other countries.
All right, so let's move on here. Let's talk about. We'll segue into continue on President Trump, but this impeachment trial that is supposed to begin, I guess, on Monday.
Yes.
Is it really going to? I mean, the Democrats, they want Trump to testify. Trump's legal team has been kind of up in the air.
He doesn't have to do anything, Frank. He's a private citizen. You can't impeach a private citizen,
Yeah.
frankly.
And that's the big question, right?
Well, today he said that he is not showing up to testify. I think Trump said this, or the office of the former president, one of these Trump surrogates said that. And Maryland's own Jamie Raskin had one of the most idiotic comments I've ever seen throughout the course of his
But
career
with Jamie,
as
it's one of many.
impeachment trial manager. I think he said something to effect that him not attending the trial is an admission of culpability, where I think most people interpret it as him rejecting the legitimacy of the trial in its entirety, which is kind of really unusual and a little disingenuous of Mr. Raskin there.
I totally
the
agree.
Democrats, the very idea that they think they really have a case on this incitement to riot, I think a lot of people realize that that's just not going to fly, and they're not going to get this. The Senate's not going to give them the 67 votes to convict. So why are we wasting our time with this?
And the whole insurrection, bogus mumbo jumbo they're whining about, AOC made a fake video that she put out on TikTok or something or another, how she was terrified for her life while she was hiding. And she goes, I could hear them. They go, where is she? Where is she? And that never happened, is what we found out. And yet again, AOC makes another bunch of stuff up. If you recall, back in the days, she went to the border and she was yelling and there was no one on the other side. And it made it look, she did her little, I'm so sad, my president's keeping all you people out and stuff like that. This is what they're resorting. They're making stuff up. I mean, honestly, when Maxine Waters, she really did not feel in real fear of her life. Nothing was going to happen to them, for crying out loud,
Well, Dwight, I mean, if most people are pointing out, I mean, we're all probably familiar because we've been down to D.C., but a lot of people are criticizing AOC because she's taking advantage of the fact that most people don't know the layout of the Capitol complex, and the fact that she was in, I think, the Cannon House office building, which is down the street from where everything was taking place. I mean, they were storming in the Capitol and in the House chamber, which is nowhere near where she would be in her congressional office. And I mean, with people like AOC, and we have people on our side of the aisle who do it too, but everything she does is for likes and retweets. It's not for, it's for people to talk about it. It's to be on the news. It's for this. It's for us to talk about it and talk about her.
And we are. I mean, so the effectiveness of AOC is the fact that we talk about it, right? I mean, we're doing exactly what she would want us to do. But you're right. I mean, I think my problem, really isn't that how, whether or not she really had faked anything or anything like that, according to Dwight, but she was being really disingenuous by stretching things out. That because, as you said, Jason, people don't really understand. Most people don't really have the layout of how Capitol Hill is. Yes, Cannon Office Building is connected to the Capitol through a tunnel, but it's not. But it's not like it's super close.
Yeah.
And where were the quote insurrectionists? They were at the Capitol Building. They weren't at the Cannon Office. In essence, there was a pipe bomb. Apparently across the street at the RNC from Cannon, but still, I think that even if that pipe bomb had gone off, unless it was going to be incredibly powerful, the distance would have had a minor effect even on the Cannon House office building. But AOC she really kind of played this up. She's very good at political theater. She's extremely good at creating these Instagram videos and everything like Twitter, doing all these things on social media to hype her people up. And then so when when Representative Mace goes on there to expose her and said, "Look, my office is 2 doors down," you know, and she was, you know, I mean, they felt threatened to a certain degree. They were kind of worried about the security because nobody really knew what was going on. But she tried to really debunk AOC. What does AOC do? You know, Ocasio-Cortez goes back and she viciously really attacks, you know, Representative Mace, right?
But why isn't AOC? Because from the video and the falsehoods, why wasn't her stuff? They slapped, basically one put in Facebook jail for her fake news. Never labeled. This has been disputed. I mean, I put up a post about President Trump, and I did a screenshot of it where Facebook says this is false news or something like that along those lines, and blocked it, you know. And I feel like, you know, you let these Democrats, they just make crap up as they go along, you know. I mean, then again, they've always been doing that. I mean, it goes ways back, goes all the way back to Vietnam and how they were just making stuff up about the Tet Offensive and so on. But I think, you know,
right. That's actually not a terrible point. You know, that's an interesting
it's
thing.
a great point. I know.
I think, you know, it's an interesting point because I hadn't really thought about it until you mentioned it. Just with all the flagging that had been done on President Trump and a lot of other conservatives / right wingers or whoever, whatever, however you want to label them, you know, here comes AOC with this that is, you know, that lacks the total integrity and total honesty about what was really going on. Yeah, I think that's a legitimate candidate to be flagged as something that's, you know, slightly could be disinformation or may not be true.
Absolutely.
But we definitely know that that's not something Twitter is interested in when it's coming from that side of the aisle.
I mean, they are coordinated. We know that. It just takes time. It'll come out. I will bet they had backdoor meetings with Time Magazine, the Biden campaign, CNN. They were all meeting probably a couple times a week, you know, and making sure that Biden doesn't keel over somewhere or fall down, you know. But of course, if he fell down, we never would have seen a single picture. While in '96, Senator Dole fell down. It was in every single left-wing rag in America. I don't know if you remember that. I think your dad actually.
Or just Gerald Ford too, you know.
Yeah. I think your dad did a media monitor, I think, on that. You know, Jerry Ford did that.
Ford alone. That poor
He's
guy.
a sweet, sweet boy.
You know what's funny is,
Okay.
you know, back in 1989, after President Bush was inaugurated, they did this little thing. The presidents talk to the kids. They had President Reagan, President Ford, President Bush, and they had President Carter. And one of the kids asked Jerry Ford, they go, you know, President Reagan likes jelly beans, you know. What is your favorite dessert? And he goes, well, I like ice creams and pies. I'm like, I could hear that in the Homer Simpson voice before Homer Simpson. Because there was actually an episode where Jerry Ford moved to Springfield after the Bushes left. And those two were like, and they show them walking across the street. They both trip over their own feet and go, dough. You know, it's hilarious. Everyone should check it out. It's one of the early Simpsons episodes.
More other cultural references from Dwight.
Yeah.
But what do you guys think about, because Dwight mentioned it in passing, Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Right, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
So what's your opinion about Marjorie Taylor Greene? I mean, you know, the Democrats, you know, they stripped her of her committee assignment. You know, I mean, she's a duly elected representative, right? I mean,
Yes.
is that not for the voters to decide whether or not she remains in Congress and everything else?
Yeah.
And what are the Democrats doing? What kind of a power grab is this by the Democrats?
Mm-hmm.
Strip a Republican from her committee assignments, to the assignments that the Republicans gave her.
Yeah. Do you guys
Then later?
Yeah. If you guys remember back when Hurricane Katrina came down, you had Sheila Jackson Lee, Al Sharpton, and a bunch of and I think Maxine Waters was one of those in part of that brain trust that said there was a Halliburton weather machine that targeted Katrina to New Orleans to get rid of all the Democrat voters. You know, so you're going after Marjorie Greene said something just as idiotic, the Jewish space gun or space laser, whatever it was. What about, you know, the Halliburton? That's why a friend of mine posted on Facebook last week, Mark Safe from the Jewish space laser. And I'm like, but you'll never be safe from the Halliburton weather machine. You can run but you can't hide because a hurricane is everywhere. You know. I mean, honestly, it's like the double, as Chris Plant would say, if the Democrats didn't have double standards, they'd have no standards. Why was Sheila Jackson Lee not censured
Well,
or stripped of her committee assignments? I mean, we had the House actually at that point until what's his name? The guy from Florida kind of brought down the House for us with his little
I may
scandals.
insurrect for a minute here, Dwight, and stage a little coup. Can I just ask each of you to go around and ask who your least favorite Democrat in the House is?
Okay, in the House.
Garrett, would you like to start? Just name
Trying
them.
to think. That's okay.
There's so many.
Swalwell. Oh, for being a spy. Okay,
Okay.
100%.
Jason? Don?
Me?
Yes.
Boy, that there's so many to choose from.
I know, isn't it?
Right, Leah, you ask a real tough question, but I think for now I'll go with Maxine Waters. She really drives me crazy.
Well, Maxine Waters. Dwight, who's your least favorite?
I've got too many to count, but I'm gonna stay local and give it to Jamie Raskin, because Jamie Raskin is a special kind of stupidity with marred with evil intent.
Fair enough. Jeff, who are your least favorite?
I'm trying to think of someone. I haven't really kept up too much with the House politics. I mean, senators, I could probably.
Give us a senator that you hate. Yeah, give us a senator you hate too.
Shoot, I'm so bad with names.
Chuck Schumer, the guy from New York, he's bad.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good one. They're all bad in their own ways. Again, the thing that bothers me is the fact that, again, like you said, they're all two things. You start saying one thing, and then when it comes your turn around, and you have to look at it and say, well,
Well, the reason I ask is now that the Democrats have.
Oh, Jason, did you want to give us your least favorite member?
For having unacceptable views, and I agree what she said was really bad. I would have been fine with it if the GOP just voted to censure her and said, yes, let's do this in a bipartisan fashion. But now that the Democrats have done this when they're in power without a consensus, it opens this big door to this. It opens up a wound, actually, that's probably healed since before the Reconstruction. I don't recall the last time a member of the House has been censured, but this is a big thing. And if you look at how things have been going in the past 20 years in terms of precedents being set by unconventional behavior like this, such as court blocking and things like that, and things where it's merely custom that prevents the worst and most toxic outcome, I think this ensures that in the future you could have Republicans go after Maxine Waters, Jamie Raskin, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, AOC, any number of these crazy people on the other side if Republicans had greater cultural and media and governmental clout. So I think that they're really overplaying their hand. Same with the trans issue, same with the hardball they're trying to play on COVID relief. I think it's really going to come back to bite them in 2022.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. You can
Go
go,
ahead.
Dwight. Oh, okay.
I just want to comment a couple things. One, great points, Leo. Bravo. Excellent points you brought up. The Democrats have, I tell you, I like conspiracy. I used to get up around 1 a.m. to listen to Coast AM. They always, by the way, I think that's where that whole Halliburton weather machine story started, because there were people that were saying, because they go, after the folks from Louisiana went to New Orleans, went off to Houston, you had a hurricane, I believe was it Rita that came that targeted the Houston area that Halliburton missed. But that's where a lot of these, it's like Alex Jones, we condemn Alex Jones. These guys can't even condemn Spiro Agnew, when he was elected governor. He was elected as a reform era governor. He was a reformer. He called out the bigots within the Republican Party, the two bigots we had in our party in 1960, in 64, 62, 66. He called out the bigots, and he told the Democrats, You know, I've called out the reprobates and despots in my party. You guys need to do the same thing. And they go, and basically, and you know what he got? Silence from the Democrats. The Democrats will refuse. They will circle the wagons around. Let me tell you, I hate to say this, but Bobby Byrd, hood-carrying member of the KKK, they circle the wagons around him. Never was he questionable. Strom Thurmond, oh, he was a former Klansman. You know, yes. So it's okay for your Klansman, the Grand Kleagle of the KKK in West Virginia, to be a United States Senator. Strom Thurmond, who basically was a Democrat when he was a member of the Klan, who also hired the first black staffer from the southern states. Strom Thurmond has been an advocate for civil rights. You know, he was not a bigot, as the left likes to call him, nor was Jesse Helms. But you know, that's just the way. If you read the history books, Strom Thurmond and Jesse Helms were these Southern Dixiecrat bigots who hated black people. You know.
I will say one thing that during this whole thing that has really made me like really want something that happens in British politics is the idea of removing the whip. Because the thing is in British politics, parties have a lot more responsibility and control over their members. And one of the things that happens is that, so every single morning when there's a vote, well, every single Monday before the House work starts, the chief whip for the party basically sends out a letter to all of the members, and every single vote is on there. And depending on how underlined the vote is, you know, that's how important it is. If it's a one-line whip, that means that it's an unimportant, but you should still vote the way of the party. If it's middle line, you should really vote the way of the party. And third line,
better. You sure if three, better.
And the thing is, if you break a third line vote, or even if not even just that, if you just become a complete disgrace to the party, like in my opinion, Marjorie Taylor Greene has become, like she's really dragging down the name of Republicans. Like you can be expelled from the party. It's called removing the whip. And basically you keep your seat, you're still allowed to vote and everything like that, but you're just no longer associated. And I largely wish that whips had that power, that the party had that authority to just, say, we're not going to deal with you.
Garrett, I really wish the Republican Party were more like the Catholic Church, where we could excommunicate members from our party. You know, David Duke, he's still, even though not a single Republican supported him, they still say, oh, he was the Republican nominee for governor in Louisiana.
Well, you know, he actually held office as a state legislator in Louisiana as a Democrat. So,
yeah. And didn't he also endorse Hillary Clinton in 2016?
Yeah, Richard Spencer endorsed Joe Biden in the 2020 election.
Yeah, it's like...
So it took 44 minutes before Dwight finally got around to mentioning Spiro Agnew. I'm gonna start
record
to see how long per show we get before we get to Spiro.
We need another Spiro Agnew minus some of the problems.
Well, you know, here's the thing. Okay, let me tell you. I tell you this: there is one thing Joe Biden has going for. He has made Spiro Agnew great again. I mean, Joe Biden is the most corrupt, ethically challenged vice president we've ever had. He's probably going to be the most ethically challenged president. He's going to make President Nixon look great, too. Then again, Barack Obama.
Hey, Nixon did nothing wrong, okay?
He did nothing, absolutely. You know something? Nixon did nothing wrong. Let me tell you, if Nixon had the resolve of Bill Clinton, he would have had 2 full terms as president. And we could have had President Agnew in 1976.
There would be no such thing as a Watergate baby.
Yeah,
I think that
I get this impression that Garrett actually could do some pretty good impressions of Nixon.
Sit with me, Henry. Sit with me. Be with me, Henry.
All right, let's continue to move on. Let's a couple more things. While we're talking about the House, what about this whole deal with, this brouhaha with Liz Cheney and leadership? She survived. She's going to stay on the conference chair. She
did a great political move, like calling for the vote herself, in my opinion. Although I don't agree with everything she says, I think it was a very smart political move to do it. But the vote kind of speaks for itself. I think it's still a pretty damning vote. I mean, damning in the sense of like party unity. Yeah. It does not like mold well. It was like 61, I think. Yeah, it's still like that's a huge portion of the party, and so the thing is it doesn't bode well for party unity in the future. So I think it's going to be a very interesting couple of years.
I think the right primary. Liz Cheney to have done after she, as a member of leadership, broke with leadership rather than voting president or not showing up. I think the right thing for her to do at this point on such a major, and I'm not saying it's a significant policy vote, but it is politically significant, and if it looked more bipartisan, it could probably actually hurt the bulk of the party who voted against it. But fortunately, numbers of no's on it were still pretty low in the Republican caucus. I think the right thing for Liz Cheney to have been done would be to independently say, I'm not in a position where I can stomach or personally handle being in leadership anymore, given these stances.
No,
Like Theresa May.
Yeah.
No, see, I think Liz Cheney we're Republicans. We're not Democrats. We don't have an amen choir. We disagree.
Well, that's kind of the thing, Dwight. We kind of need an amen choir, or else we'll keep playing the condemnation game, and we won't.
No, but see, we're the party of ideas, and when you have ideas, you get people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Bad ideas, but you still get ideas. We're the party of ideas, and you can't, because let me tell you, groupthink is a horrible thing.
Glass half full, Dwight.
What's that?
It's a glass half full.
That's right. That's right. Jimmy Carter. You guys, Jeff, you might remember. You might even be too young for this one. But back, there were hostages in a far, far, far away place called Iran, when the Ayatollah Khomeini.
I remember that.
And there was a failed rescue mission that Jimmy Carter pushed, and that was all done via groupthink, where everybody's, oh yeah, Mr. President, that'd be a great idea. First they used the wrong kind of helicopters. They knew there was a sandstorm coming, and they still went. They should have aborted the mission before that, and he had egg on his face, and the incompetent buffoon that he was. And then you got these Democrat conspiratorial theories that say, oh yeah, George Bush flew there in an SR-171 and negotiated to keep the hostages there until it's like, stop dreaming, you damn Democrats. Like, you're wrong. But my point is, groupthink is a bad thing, and it's like, as a party, Jason, does your Central Committee agree on everything 100% of the time? No, they don't.
Bob, we don't agree on.
Exactly. Does the state Central Committee agree 100% on everything? No.
I think that one thing, especially in leadership, though, another thing I really like in British politics, because I watch a lot of British politics, PMQs and stuff like that, is the idea of ministerial co-responsibility. And so one thing is that whenever okay, see you, Leo.
Okay, see you, Doc.
See you, Leo.
But one thing that I really like from British politics is the idea of ministerial co-responsibility, that even though that a minister might privately disagree when you're in cabinet or anything else, you must publicly support the decision that the party takes. Because the thing is we'll get through all of the discussion and all of the everything the deliberation through the party stage privately, and we'll get to our decision. But once we take that, party unity has to be stable, or else we're going to be in a situation where we are right now. We're in the middle of a civil war.
No, look, here's the thing, Gary. I know what you're saying. It's kind of like family. You can disagree privately within your home with your family, but when you're out in public, you defend the family. I know that sounds very God,
no, I think that's a good analogy.
But that's kind of how it should be. But here's the thing: we can't cry over spilled milk, so to speak. But here's the thing: Liz Cheney, one error does not erase all the good that she's done. If you recall, she was actually going to be. People wanted her to be speakers at various Lincoln Day dinners all over the country. She's still Liz Cheney. She did. She didn't like the attack on the Capitol by Antifa folks that probably infiltrated those rioters. But it's one of those things. It's like there is, and I tell you, there is blame to go around, and I will say there's a lot of blame to go around. And I tell you, if now the Democrats are using the excuse of that to build a wall around the United States Capitol to keep us out. The House is the people's house, not Nancy Pelosi's house, you know. And I hope they have the wall together in 2022. Every Republican running goes there and goes, Madam Speaker, tear down this wall. And that should be all, you know, and I think the Republicans in 2022, we need to go back to the contract with America type concept where we speak with one voice. We can't have all these dissenting voices, contradicting voices. We need a contract type. And I think I mean, Maryland, we kind of did that in 2018, correct, Jason? Correct me if I'm wrong. We kind of did that with having a one voice, kind of like with our Drive for Five mission. You know, we were all kind of like, you know, look, everyone else, you guys are like the French Resistance. You know, we got to have Normandy be successful. You know, the Normandy invasion has to be successful because that's, you know, and unfortunately, Normandy invasion was not successful because we had a few people that couldn't sing off the same song sheet. They all actually thought they had a prayer of winning, especially some of the folks I know in my county who I remember when I recruited some of these people that, hey, you're not going to win, but you got to be there if the opportunity should arise. And the opportunity did not arise from folks, but it is what it is. And I think we're at final thoughts now.
So Dwight,
Don?
want me to start?
Actually, I want to set something up because I'm going to do a special final thoughts. So why don't you go first, Don?
Okay.
With your final thoughts.
So my final thoughts. A couple of things I think real quick. One is that one of the things on the list here was that some Democrat Connecticut state legislators want to make pizza. This is for Dwight. The official state food. So the New Yorkers are pushing back on this idea.
I hope so.
That Connecticut has any idea what pizza really should be like.
Have you ever had New Haven Pete's pizza? It's not that good.
Isn't it pronounced a Pete's, not pizza? It's like a Pete's.
Yes, Pete's, yeah. New Haven Pete's, yeah.
Plus there's that whole thing about Pizza Hut creating a Detroit-style pizza for which apparently Detroiters are like, what the heck is that? But the other thing was that I want to commend former President Trump, on sending a letter to the Screen Actors Guild before they could go ahead and inflict any punishment on him for his actions. And he basically said, "Who cares? I'm proud of my work, you know, in the film industry." And I think that's great. Kind of his throw that middle finger up at the SAG and everything. And I think they deserve that.
Mm-hmm. Jason, final thoughts?
Yeah, I just this just came across my phone a minute ago. Apparently, Republicans in Congress have sent a letter to that Sergeant at Arms to request that Nancy Pelosi be fined for breaking her newly imposed screening rule. You have to get metal detected as you walk into the House chamber, and apparently a bunch of members saw her, I guess, either today or yesterday at around 10 o'clock in the morning when they were showing up, walk right on by security. So they said, well, under these rules, that Nancy Pelosi needs to be fined $5,000. I think it's great. I think it's funny.
You know how many ice creams that buys for her?
Well, second buyer, she's not going to be able to afford ice cream now, right? Dwayne, she's going to pay $5,000.
That's great.
Garrett, final thoughts?
I think that largely, like from what we were talking about tonight, I think that, you know, the Republican Party, you know, we've been saying this for a couple of weeks now that, you know, we're in a tight spot right now. And I think that, you know, the Liz Cheney vote, what's happening with Marjorie Taylor Greene, you know, and everything like that in the party. It's really important that, you know, we come together and like we unify and that we try to, you know, obviously we're going to be having some fights in the coming days about, you know, where we want to stand as a party. But I think that it's really important that after, you know, those arguments are finished, you know, that we all pretty much do unify, because we know that it's going to be better to be, you know, be unified with the Republican Party than allow, you know, the Democrats to take every election from here on for 30 years forward.
We can't let that happen, Garrett. We cannot let that happen. Jeff, final thoughts.
All right, so I got two final thoughts. One's to tail back on what you said, Dwight, about the contract with America.
Mm-hmm.
That's I think in the heyday of the Republican Party, One of the things that impressed me was that, for me, the contract with America was really for the working class people, the middle America, the farmers, the small business owners, the people that were, kind of churning up the economy, that were causing, jobs to be created, providing food and employment for most of America. And I think, again, in my opinion, we need to go do that commitment. We need to renew the commitment to the farmers, to the small business owners, that we've got their back, that we're going to watch out for them economically, that we're going to make sure they don't go under, that we're going to provide protections for them. I think that would really go a long way to showing integrity here. Second thought, this is a small thought, is one of the agenda items that we didn't get to. But wear red for heart disease. Let's remember those that are struggling. Let's support, donations to the American Red Cross. It's a good foundation. Donate blood when you can. Support those that are, don't have the means medically, or have other issues that you can provide. Like I said, blood is something that's always in demand. Be aware of, your friends, neighbors, family. Be aware of them.
Okay, I've got a quick. What I'm going to do is I want to share a little profile with one of our friends. It is our friend Governor Bob Ehrlich. He just started a podcast called The Bottom Line. It's on Apple iTunes, and it is also available on it's also on Apple iTunes and Spotify. And here's just a little clip of a recording, and we did an interview with him on our sister show, Direct Line Extra. Brian Nydak and we did an interview Wednesday, and that's also, you can go find that at MontgomeryCountyRepublicanClub.com. But here is the video. I'm going to play it for a second. Okay, and
hi, it's Bob and Kendall Ehrlich back at you with a new podcast. In fact, Bottom Line with Bob and Kendall Ehrlich. But we want to talk with you, not at you. So here are the ways to reach us on Twitter.
So please follow us on Twitter at Earl Bottom Line, at Bob_Ehrlich, and at Kendall Ehrlich.
We're going to have a lot of fun. Please join us.
And I highly recommend everyone go subscribe to the Governor's Podcast. Governor Ehrlich was a transformative governor in Maryland. I think, Garrett, it might be before your time.
No, he was in office. I was just very young.
Were you 1, 2?
Yeah, I was about 1. I was born in 2000. So.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. But as I was saying, is we've got my other final thoughts is the fact that one, they fired Lou Dobbs over at Fox News. He's been canceled.
I didn't hear that. What happened?
Yeah. Basically, Lou Dobbs evidently.
Is Lou Dobbs not conservative or Trumpy enough?
No, they canceled Lou Dobbs on Fox Business. So maybe he's not fired from Fox. Maybe he just canceled his show. They're going to rework it.
What happened though?
Get rid of
I
a
have
lot
no
of people
idea.
after.
There's some people who say he was fired because of his he went off the rails on the Dominion voting machines. There's all sorts of conspiracies swirling around. And my final thought is this. I think one, I think we really need to focus for 2022. Let bygones be bygones. Let's move forward as a Republican Party. Sure, we're going to disagree, but let me tell you something. We should speak with one voice when speaking in public. We can have our disagreements. We can say, we'd like to have our state party conventions in Ocean City by mandate or fiat. And then some people could say, no, we want to have them in Annapolis all the time because it's like a stone's throw from my house.
Yes.
But I think Ocean City, we need to go to Ocean City, go over the Bay Bridge, support the economies.
Open
on the
your
shore.
horizons, Dwight. We're heading up to Allegheny County.
That's fine too. I do like. I am.
We should hold it at Deep Creek Lake, all the way in Garrett County. I think they need some love.
I mean, we're only 30 minutes away at the next one.
Yeah, and
The problem at
I'm
Deep Creek is there's not a big enough hotel there for us to do it.
Could we not do it at Frostburg University?
You think a higher education institution in Maryland's going to let the Republican Party come and do their convention?
The Mount would probably, though. The Mount might.
Taxpayer funded. But I'm excited about going to Western. I don't think the furthest west conventions we've ever had was Bethesda and Frederick for the state party in my tenure with the state party. I know in the old days we used to go out to Rock Gap fairly regularly, and even in Frederick.
I'm also an advocate for Solomon's Island.
Yeah, I don't dislike
Or Kent
Solomon's
Island.
either.
No.
There's nothing on Kent Island for us to do there. I mean, there's no, but another good place that would be another great place for a convention. I think would be awesome is College Park.
Oh,
I think that would be another great place. I would do that.
I disagree with that.
The post convention parties would be legendary.
Oh my God.
They would be legendary. Jason went to UMCP. He knows what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
Hey,
Did we reach the end of the show yet?
Oh yes, I guess we are. Okay. Okay, we'll be back again next week, and everyone tune in to Direct Line on the 17th. We have Becky Norton Dunlap speaking on President Reagan, and then we've got the Chesapeake governors back on February 24th. Governor Allen and Governor Ehrlich. They're going to be talking about all things politics. They always do an exciting show. We'll be back next.